Greetings and welcome to the Warhammer Underworlds Warband Review. Today I'm reviewing the Gorechosen of Dromm. Before we get into things, thanks goes to Games Workshop for providing this to review for free. As always, I aim to be honest, impartial and constructively critical. So time to get on with the review, and please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the warband and the video as a whole. If you want, I've also got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. But yeah, let's get on with this warband review. So for the narrative, actually not too much. The Gorechosen of Dromm are a bunch of slaughter priests, with one of them being on their way to becoming a gore beast of Khorne. Their goal is to infiltrate the deepest parts of the Nethermaze, somehow surviving drowning, and then to make it bleed and corrupt it in the name of Khorne, so that it corrupts and poisons the entire realm of Uglu with molten blood and lava. We'll see if they are successful. I mean, especially considering we're going to Haish, I believe, for the next season. But that's their narrative. For the warband, the miniatures, you know, you've got 3, so they're an elite warband, so they're generally going to be quite tough, quite killy, and you know, they're kind of going to be like mini heroes, because they are basically 3 slaughter priests, and they are generally going to be an aggro warband, because that's what elite teams generally are. They're not too great at holding ground, but they are great at, well, killing. For the miniatures, they come on, well, like red plastic, as per Khorne. They all look pretty okay, although my favorite probably has to be the leader. It's a shame he wasn't released during like Beastgrave or Diachasm, because he really fits the Beastgrave like Gur motif. But otherwise, yeah, it looks really solid. The priest is okay, and the Gore Beast guy is okay, but I really like the headdress of the leader. Other than that, they're just they're nice, go together fairly well. So for the fighter cards, we start off with the leader. So we have Dromm, Wounder of Worlds. He's your Khorne priest leader. He's movement free, 1 block, 5 wounds. He's got a Blood Blessed Axe, which is range 2, 2 smash, 2 damage. He inspires when he has 3 or more Blood Tithe counters. He has Enrage, which is an action, remove X Blood Tithe counters, where X's number is the round number. Choose a visible fighter with no move and or charge tokens within 4 hexes. That chosen fighter's player makes a charge action, then stagger that fighter. +1 dice to friendly range 1 attack actions during that charge action. So you pick someone, they make a charge action, and depending on their range attacks, they get +1 dice. But they're also staggered. So it gets more costly as the game goes on, but it's a pretty powerful effect. And Blood Tithes I'll get to in a moment. For Dromm Inspired, he goes to movement 4, and his axe goes to Free Fury with Grievous. So interesting. And then otherwise he remains unchanged. Actually, not really that important to inspire, honestly, just because he goes from 2 smash to Free Fury with Grievous. Would have rather preferred him being Free Fury with Cleave and damage free. At the moment, no real rush to inspire him, which is nice, I guess. Skull Grinder Herax is your other Khorne fighter. Movement 4, 4 wounds. He's got Forge Wrath weapons, which are range 1, 2 smash, 2 damage with Blood Change and Stagger. So Blood Change, remove 1 Blood Tithe counter to make your attack range 2, which is alright. And then Blood Tithe. So after setup, give this fighter 1 Blood Tithe counter. After an activation step in which this fighter was dealt damage or deals damage other than by a lethal hex, give this fighter 1 Blood Tithe counter, and it's the same for all of your fighters. So you don't really get it from Gambits and like in the power step and hurting yourself via lethals, but it can trigger off cards that damage you during an activation. So still not bad, but at least you will start with 1. Then you have Herax Inspired, who doesn't really change. It just goes to damage free on his weapons, which is actually really important. And you probably want to inspire him quickly just so he goes to damage free. But him being 4 wounds is a little disappointing. Then you have the Gore Hulk, who is on his way to become like a Gore Beast of Khorne. So he's Brawler, movement free, 1 block, 5 wounds. He has Crushing Grip, which is range 1, 2 Fury, 3 damage, and Choking Grip, which is 2 smash, 1 range, 1 damage, throttle, and stagger. So throttle after the damage step. Give the target one move token and they can't be driven back. Then you can remove one of this fighter's blood types counters, and if you do, deal 1 damage to the target, which I would say is pretty useless, and you never really want to do it unless someone has like 2 health left and you know you can kill them. He's pretty bad, honestly. That 2 fury is rough, but he's tough. The Gorehulk inspired goes to movement 4 with 6 wounds, and his crushing grip is 3 fury, 3 damage, and his choking grip is 3 smash with ensnare. Otherwise he's unchanged. Someone you definitely want to inspire quickly, because he becomes amazing while inspired, but he's pretty bad while uninspired. For the faction objective, starting with, you know, the cards that are okay, you've got a potent offering. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter is taken out of action and there is a domain card in play. Not really that great. Then you've got Consecrate in Blood, which is a duel. Score this in end phase if no enemy fighters hold objective and 1 or more friendly fighters hold an objective within 1 hex of no one's territory. It's not bad, but very situational. Then you've got Grim Satisfaction, which is a hybrid. Score in end phase if 4 or more fighters each have 1 or more wound counters, or 1 or more friendly fighters in no one's territory each have a total of 8 blood type counters or wound tokens. It's not worth it, just really tough. So then you have Hack and Slash. Scores in the end phase if 2 or more successful attack actions were made via activations of previous phase. You guys aren't actually that accurate or have much range, so I feel it's a bit dicey for 1 glory. Then you've got Worshipped in Battle. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more surviving friendly fighters have 1 or more blood type tokens and they're within 1 hex of no one's territory. For 2 glory, it's not terrible, but it's not great. For top picks for faction objectives, you have a Brutal Reckoning, which is Surge and Duel. Score this when you take someone out of action and if you had 1 or more blood type counters or 1 or more wound counters, so pretty much an auto score. A Prescient Strike is a Surge and Duel. Score this when you take someone out of action and you did exactly the right number of damage, so precise use of force. So it's really good. A Worthy Offering is scored in end phase if your warband has 2 or more blood type counters. It's 1 glory, but you basically auto score this. Blood Claim is scored in end phase if 1 or more friendly fighters each hold an objective within 1 hex of no one's territory. You can set this up pretty easily and it's not too bad. Then you've got Glorious Battle. Scores in end phase if 4 or more fighters each have 1 or more charge tokens and or blood type counters. So this is pretty easy because 3 of your guys will have blood type counters and more than likely 1 of your opponent's fighters is going to make a charge action, which will easily get you 2 glory. So pretty good. For the Blood God's Due, scores in end phase if 3 or more fighters have 1 or more wound counters and or more blood type counters, which is once again very easy. Then you have Untouchable Fury. Score this after a friendly fighter is dealt damage and not taken out of action, which is also incredibly likely, so really good. For faction Gambits, we have Blood Curdling Roar. Reaction, use this before you would remove 1 or more blood type counters from a friendly fighter with 0 or more blood type counters. When you consider to remove 1 additional blood type counter. It's not bad, but generally you don't really want to remove blood type counters until you're inspired. Then you have Domain of Blood, which is a domain prayer. Fighters cannot be healed or driven back and persist until the end of the next activation until another domain gambit is played. And you can remove 1 blood type counter from Dromm, so it persists until the end of the round until another domain gambit is played. It's okay, but you don't really want to play blood type counters for it. Same thing as Domain of Fury. When a fighter begins a move action, that move action cannot earn further from the closest enemy fighter. And if you want it to persist, you have to spend blood type. If you didn't, it would have been much better, but it's not. Then you got Domain of Wrath. When activated, fighters must make a charge action if they can. And this persists until the end of the activation. It's really good, but I don't know if it's worth paying a blood type counter for. It's just really tough, but I don't think it's that great. Then you've got Wound the Realm. Choose 1 fighter within 1 hex of no one's territory. Deal 1 damage to them. When you play this card, you can remove all blood type counters from Dromm. If you do, damage everyone within 1 hex of no one's territory instead. It's okay, just very, very specific placement, so I don't like it. For faction Gambits top picks, we have Blood Boil, which is a prayer restricted by Dromm. Choose a friendly fighter within 2 hexes of Dromm, deal 1 damage. Really good. You've got Brazen Edge Fury. The first attack action made by the chosen fighter in the next activation has cleave or reroll 1 attack dice. You can remove 1 blood type counter. If you do, you gain both effects. I like it just for giving a reroll, but it's a solid card. Call of Blood is another prayer. Choose up to 2 fighters. Push each chosen fighter 1 hex towards the nearest fighter from an enemy warband. If your chosen fighter has 1 or more blood type counters, you can move 1 of them. If you do, push that chosen fighter 2 hexes. Restricted to your leader, but it's nice mobility, and when you're inspired, you know, you're probably popping that for the extra movement. Oh, it's pretty solid. Overhead Smash. Play this only in a power step following your activation. You cannot play this in your last power step of the round. Choose a fighter adjacent to a friendly Gorehulk. At the start of your next activation, deal 2 damage to the chosen fighter if they are adjacent to a friendly Gorehulk. When this card deals damage, you can remove 1 blood type to deal 3 damage instead. It's restricted to your Gorehulk, but what you can do is use this on someone who is charged, and then literally deal 2 damage to them, then activate an attack. It's pretty... I like this for damage. Then you've got Skin of Brass, which is a prayer. Choose 1 friendly fighter, a -1 damage to attack actions that target them to the minimum of 1, and persists until the end of the round or until they are dealt damage. Really, really good. For faction upgrades, you have Aura of Wrath. Fighters within 2 hexes of this fighter can't be driven back. It's okay. Bloody Worshipper. At the start of each round, gives this fighter 1 blood tithe counter. It's your only real source of additional blood tithe, but it's not great. Paragon of Slaughter. In the declare attack action step of this range 1 or 2 attack action, you can move 1 blood tithe counter if you do heal 1 or draw 1 power card. Not really good. Sharpened by Rage. You can remove, when attacking, 1 of these blood tithe counters to get cleave, ensnare, and knockback 1. And your range 1 or 2 attack actions have this. I don't like it. White Hot Anger is a reaction. Use this after friendly fighters 1 or 2. Enemy warbands within hexes adjacent to this fighter, true of them, lethal hexes until the end of the round. I don't really like it. And then it's restricted to Herax. For faction upgrades top picks, you have Crazed Rampager, +2 move while you're making a charge action. Really good. Final Frenzy. This fighter cannot be taken out of action. This effect does not prevent damage being dealt to this fighter. At the end of the action range, break this card. When this card is broken, this fighter is taken out of action. Really, really good. Put this on like a 1 wound fighter. And it just basically forces your opponent, well, yeah, you can keep attacking them, but I will keep attacking as well. So I really like this. Powerful Hatred. This fight is considered to be a supporting fighter for friendly attack actions made within X hexes, whereas X is the number of blood type counters. So round 1, it's not great, but round 2 and 3, this is really solid. Really, really good. I like this. Then you've got Retaliate. Use this during a successful 1 or 2 attack action that targets this fighter. After the out of action check, this fighter makes a 1 or 2 range attack action, then break this card. Must target the attacker and they cannot be driven back. It's a really good return fire card. Then you have Wrath Incarnate. Based on how many blood type counters, if you have 1, you can't be driven back. If you have 2, you have +1 move. And if you have 3, you have +1 damage. Really like this, especially like if you put this on the Gorehulk when, you know, you want him to be inspired and you're generally not going to use his blood type counters. So really, really good there. So now go on to the universal cards, starting with objectives. So this Destruction Whirling Wreckers is a duel. Score this in the end phase of 2 or more surviving friendly fighters, and they have 1 or more scything attacks. Not really great, even for 2 glory. Beating the Odds, which has amazing artwork. Really love those dice. Score this in the 3rd end phase if there are 1 or more surviving friendly minions, and there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters with no wounds. It's rubbish for 2 glory as a 3rd end phase. Just nope. Then you have Open the Waking Gate. Surge Duel. Score this immediately after an activation step if a Penumbral Lock is persisting and you have a Penumbral Key. For 3 glory, no. Pulled Under. Score this in end phase of 3 or more domain cards were played this round, while 1 or more enemy fighters who each have 3 or more upgrades are out of action. For 1, it's not worth it. Reel 'em in isn't great. Surge Duel. Score this immediately after an enemy fighter in no one's territory and enemy territory was pushed and they end in your territory. So, not good. Round in Circle. Score this in end phase if 2 or more scatter abilities resolve this round. No thank you. Up to our next. Score this in end phase if there are more enemy fighters in your territory than friendly fighters. Very situational. For universal objectives top picks, we have Shaken, yet unmoved, and not stirred. For Order, Surgeon Duel. Scores immediately after a successful attack action targeted a friendly fighter. if that fighter was not trapped or pushed during that attack action, and that fighter is on the battlefield, you gain 1 glory. So I actually like this if you are on guard or have a way like to make sure you can't be pushed. And especially as you can trigger it by being on guard, I really like this. Savage Slaughter for Chaos. Surge Hybrid, score this after you make an attack action that kills someone if you're Beast or Khorne, or that friendly fighter has no upgrades, mainly for Khorne warbands, but it's really good. Then you have Mystery of Death for Death. Hybrid, score this in end phase if your weapon played 4 more Gambits in this preceding action phase, or you've scored no other objectives. It's for the first one. 1 glory for 4 Gambits is really solid. So, yeah. For Universal Gambits, we have Order, Defend, Defend. Choose 2 friendly fighters with no move or charge tokens. Give each chosen fighter 1 guard, then stagger each enemy fighter adjacent to 1 or more. It's okay, but not great. Weighty Blessing is for Chaos, is a mutation. Choose 1 friendly fighter, then put 1 shield counter or magic counter on them, and they are -1 move to minimum 0. If you gave them a shield counter, they have +1 defense. If you gave them a magic counter, they have cleave. It's not bad. It's just weird. You're probably going with the shield, but yeah. Inevitable Fate for Death is Gambit spell cast on a channel. If cast, deal 1 damage to kill a vulnerable fighter. It's good, but situational. Darkwater Drought, choose 1 friendly fighter or choose 1 enemy fighter adjacent to 1 or more friendly fighters. Then roll 3 magic dice. For each roll of a focus, deal 1 damage, and each roll of a channel, heal 1. Very bad. Death Charging is Domain, +1 move to move actions that end in no one's territory enemy. It's okay. Grip of the Drowned, Domain, you cannot be pushed if adjacent to other fighters. Hold them under, choose 1 enemy fighter and roll X dice where X is the number of friendly fighters adjacent to them. For each roll of a smash, deal 1 damage. It's just not great. Parting of the Waters, friendly fighters' movement can't be reduced. You need a priest, just too situational. Raging Torrent, play this after Domain Gambit is played. Choose an enemy fighter that's holding objective and break 1 of their upgrades. It's way too situational. Then you have Destruction's Advance for Destruction. Choose 2 friendly fighters, stagger them and push them 1 hex towards the closest enemy fighter. It's too much of a downside for that. Then for Gambit's top picks, you have Corrupted Companion. Choose 1 friendly fighter, deal 1 damage, and they get +2 dice to their next attack action in the next activation. If their companion, +1 damage to range 1 or 2 attack actions as well. It's an old Shadespire card with a nice buff, and you're mainly playing it for the +2 attack dice. Really, really good. For universal upgrades, we have for Order Impervious Charge. Can't be dealt when making a charge action, you cannot be dealt damage. So from like lethal hexes. +1 move when making charge actions. If this is a beast, it's okay, just situational. Frenzied Strength is for Chaos. If this fighter is a Khorne action. If this fighter is a Khorne fighter, range 1 and 2 have cleave. If your fighter is vulnerable, +1 damage. It's okay. Merciless Bludgeon for Death. This fighter's range 1 attack actions that target a fighter with 1 or more wound counters have stagger, and you can reroll 1 attack dice in those attack actions. So you get to reroll 2 dice. Weird. Greedy Swing is for Destruction. Range 1, 2 Fury Scything, 2 damage. If you kill someone, draw 1 power card. You're not really going to do that, so it's not great. Dark Corruption, -1 wounds to a minimum of 1. When someone attacks you, roll a magic dice roll 2 magic dice. For each roll of a focus, -1 damage. It's restricted to priests, and it's not great. Darkwater Whirlstone, when a fighter is within 3 hexes and is pushed, they cannot end further away from this fighter. It's fine. Then you got Lacerating Barnacles, which is a main upgrade and a reaction. When an enemy fighter ends a move action adjacent to this fighter, roll a magic dice. During a round in which 1 or more Gambits were played, roll 2 dice instead. On each roll of a focus, deal 1 damage. Way too situational. Puzzling Map Fragment is a map action. Scatter 3 and push this fight up to 3 hexes. If the chain is interrupted or whatever, it breaks. After removing the scatter, if you're on an objective, gain 1 spent glory and break this card. It's not worth it. Shoulder Charge. Of this fighter's move action that is not part of a super action, choose 1 adjacent enemy fighter, push that fighter 1 hex or up to 2 hexes as a brawler. No, just don't take this. Then for universal upgrades top picks, you have Cursed Boarding Pike. Range 2, 4 Fury, 2 damage. You gain a spent glory when you kill someone, unless you're on a feature token, which you're likely to be. This is really, really good, like this one. Then you have Dark Parasite with Metal Gear Solid 5. +1 damage to range 1 attack actions that target you. +1 damage and grievous to this fighter's range 1 and 2 attack actions. Amazing. It should have been +1 damage when you are a target of an attack action. Range 1 attack actions is very limiting, and some fighters don't even have range 1. So this is really, really good. I like this. And now I'm quickly going to review the cards that come within the Deadly Depths Rivals deck. So this is a separate Rivals deck containing 12 objectives and then 10 power cards. Well, 10 gambits and spells, and then 10 upgrades. So I'll just go through them in order, ranking them if they're good or not. These are ones I've scanned in myself. So first off, for universal objectives, we have a War in the Shadows. This is a duel. Score this in the end phase. If during the previous activation step, 1 or more enemy fighters were taken out of action, and 2 or more friendly fighters are in cover hexes. For 1 glory, it's not bad. For Blood in the Deeps, it's a duel. Score this if 1 or more fighters were taken out of action and 1 or more friendly fighters are within 1 hex of a feature token. Again, it's okay, but I'm not really a fan of this. Too positional. Then you have Call of the Dark. Scores an end phase if 4 or more fighters are each in cover hexes. After you score this card, pick 1 opponent. That warband deals 1 damage to 1 fighter from your warband that is in a cover hex. It is free glory, but I feel it's kind of a bit obvious what you're doing, so it's not really great. It's like a reverse supremacy, but harder. Then you've got Crushing Them Wholesale. This is a duel. Scores an end phase if there are more enemy fighters out of action than surviving enemy fighters, and 1 or more leaders are out of action. It's not worth it. Too situational. Dark Judgment is a surgeon duel. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action if they take someone out of action and the attacker or defender was in a cover hex in enemy territory. If it was just in a cover hex, it'd be great. Otherwise, just too situational for my liking. Desperate Triumph is a surgeon duel. Score this immediately after an activation step if your leader is on a feature token in enemy territory and your leader is vulnerable. It's 2 glory, but way too situational to score reliably. Dustbringers. Score this in end phase if 1 or more friendly fighters are each on a feature token in enemy territory that was an objective token at the start of the round. That's not bad, but it's just 1 glory. Looting the Remains is a surge. Score this in an end phase. It's just an end phase. Score there's an end phase if 1 or more enemy fighters are out of action and each have 2 or more upgrades. No, for 1 glory. Lost Together is a duel. Scores an end phase. In the 3rd end phase, there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters and each of them is on an objective token in the same territory. For 3 glory, it's not bad, but I don't like this as a 3rd end phase. It's just not great. Plumbing the Depths, scored in an end phase if 1 or more friendly fighters are in a cover hex, 1 or more friendly fighters on a feature token, and 1 or more friendly fighters are in a lethal hex. For 2 glory, that's actually pretty good, especially if you've got fighters immune to being on lethals. Purging the Abyss, scores an end phase if more enemy fighters were taken out of action this round than their objective tokens on the battlefield. If it was 2 glory, yeah, 1 glory is not so good. Surging Darkness, score this immediately after an activation step if 2 or more friendly fighters with charge tokens are on feature tokens. For 1, it's not bad, but it's not great. For Gambits, we have a Hungry Darkness. Pick 1 feature token, push that feature token 1 hex closer to the nearest enemy fighter. That's pretty good. Amphibious Ambush, the first range 1 attack action in the next activation that targets enemy fighter on a feature token is Cleave and Grievous. That's pretty solid. Blazing Light, choose 1 fighter, flip each feature token that is not an objective token that is within 2 hexes. It's okay, not bad. Knives in the Dark, +1 damage to the first attack action in the next activation if you target someone on a feature token. Solid, not bad. Murderous Tides, +1 dice to the first attack action made by a friendly fighter that has 1 or more supporting fighters. This effect persists until a friendly fighter with 1 or more supporting fighters makes an attack action until the end of the round. Pretty good for swarmy fighters, so really good on like the Osteoc Bone Reaper one. Seeking the Depths, the Deep Truths. Choose 1 friendly fighter in a cover hex, deal 1, 2, or 3, then roll X magic dice for the amount of damage you've dealt. You cannot choose to deal more damage to the chosen fighter than the wound characteristic. On a roll of 1 or more focus, gain 1 glory. So this actually isn't too bad if you have fighters you want to damage, but if you've got a 3 wound fighter that you can, well, a 4 wound fighter that you could throw away, then what warband are you playing? So yeah. Shadowed Refuge is +1 defense in a cover hex in the next, so all friendly fighters in the next activation step. It's all right. The walls are closing in At the end of the next activation step, deal 1 damage to each fighter on an edge hex. It's actually pretty cool, and it's similar to a card I originally suggested called Shade Glass Walls. But I like this. Actually really cool. You have a turn to activate, but no, it's really cool. Waist Deep, fighters that are not on a feature token at the start of the next activation step have removed characters 2. It's okay. We must go deeper. Choose up to 2 friendly fighters. Push them 1 hex. After that push, they must be closer to a cover hex, or must be in a cover hex or an enemy territory. It's very situational, so I'm actually not really a fan of it unless you're fast aggro, because you're not going to get much use of that otherwise. For upgrades, you have Cursed Boarding Axe, which is range 1, 4 fury, 2 damage. You get Spent Glory for killing someone unless on a feature token. This is really, really good, although I prefer the Spear. Darkwater Anchor is -1 damage to range 3 attack actions that target this fighter to a minimum of 1, and they cannot be pushed by enemy warbands. So not bad, but range fighters aren't really doing too well at the moment. Dredged Line, choose an enemy fighter on a feature token, push that chosen fighter 2 hexes towards this fighter, then break this card. It's not bad. Gallows Humor, reaction after an activation step, which is 1 or more fighters will take an out of action, push this fighter 1 hex. Not bad, pretty solid actually, especially for aggro teams. Lurking Horror, +1 dice to this fighter's attack action after the attack roll. Remove 1 attack dice from that roll. And then reaction after your activation step, this 5 in the cover hex, push this fighter 1 hex. It's okay. It's a weird +1 dice, I would say. Not bad, just weird. Marked by the Dark, this fighter's range 1 attack actions have Ensnare, and this fighter has Flying. That's actually pretty solid. Mask of Shadows is an illusion. This fighter cannot be the target of attack actions unless the target is adjacent. It's alright. Tantalizing Map Fragment, action, flip an objective token this is on, then gain 1 Spent Glory fight, give this fighter 1 charge token and break this card. I actually like this, not too bad, great for minions and stuff. The Lifeline, at the start of the 3rd round, choose this fighter and 1 other friendly fighter, place each fighter in the hex they were occupied in, and then break this card. So my problem with all start of the round cards is if you haven't equipped this yet, it's actually useless. So I would not run it because of how hard it is to use timing-wise. Then you've got Umbral Stigmata. Action, deal 1 damage to this fighter, then choose 1 enemy fighter on a feature token, deal 1 damage, then break this card. Good for Slaanesh, I guess? I mean, overall, this Rivals deck is better than the ones we've had previously, but it still has the problem of not feeling great on its own and feeling more as if a bunch of cards put together that will work better depending on the warband that can slot these cards in. Otherwise, yeah, it's pretty solid. It's still, in my opinion, the best Rivals deck. The fact it's gone up by £5 from 12 to 17 is a bit of a stomachache. But if you were looking for a Rivals deck, I'd say this is pretty solid. But as I said, it has the pitfalls of Rivals decks where they don't feel like decks. They just feel like a bunch of random cards put together. There's more direction here, and it is the best Rivals deck. But I personally wouldn't get it. But if you're a new player and you couldn't get the Essentials pack, this seems alright. So I'll go back to the main review now. So for the Warband Overview, overall this Warband is pretty rough. They're not bad, but they're really not great. They're just okay. For their pros and cons, they're all individual heroes. They look pretty awesome. They're very thematic in terms of their core nature. For the drawbacks, they're quite weak. The Gore, the Blood Tithe is okay, but it's another counter mechanic. It's not egregious like previous ones, but it is quite a slow warband. They're not the best aggro. They feel like they looked at Iron Skull's boys, Morgoth's Crushers, sorry. And we're we don't want to repeat that. So they definitely haven't. But they're just a very weak warband, very thematic. And so their cons are they're slow. I really would have liked it if they were all 5 wounds, but they're going to be quite tough to play. And their damage output is very poor. It's kind of relying on the Gore Hulk to get inspired, but it's not great. And they're very slow warband in terms of movement, as well as getting going, because they're going to need at least 2 attack actions taken to inspire, it's probably going to kill them, especially as one of you guys is only 4 wounds. So overall, would I recommend this warband? If you like it, yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't get it because the gameplay of this warband doesn't appeal to me. They are just a worse Morgox Crushers, and I would probably just use Morgox Crushers instead if you can find them. Cards are okay. They do have a decent selection of objectives and like gambits and upgrades for faction cards. And universally, there's not really much in this expansion. So if you wanted to skip it, wouldn't be the worst of things. But as I said, they're not horrible. They're not like just bad. They're just okay. So if you like them, I'd recommend picking them up. But as I said, personally, I wouldn't because I think Morgox Crushers just do a better job. But if you do want to buy them, you can do so from my affiliate links at Element Games in the episode description below, which will net you a 20% discount while at no additional cost to yourself and helping to support me and the channel. But that's pretty much it for today. Please remember to like and subscribe as well as comment. Let me know what you thought of the warband and the review. Do you agree or disagree? And if you want, I've got a Discord you can check out in the episode description below for free, as well as a Patreon if you want to give me some more support. So I'll quickly just thank my patrons. So for my adepts of the crit, I have Samaru, Sam, Tarun, Kenzie, John Thomas, Dave, Average Joe 27, and Adzik. And then for my veterans of the crit, I have Sam, Joe, and Confucius. So thank you so much for all your support. It really helps a lot, and I really appreciate it. But that's pretty much it for me now. I don't think I have time to actually do a battle report for these guys. I'll see. But yeah, I've got a lot of kill team stuff to do. But I hope you enjoyed this look at Warhammer Underworlds. Being quite condensed. I'm probably going to do the rival deck that comes separately as a separate article, or I've edited onto this video. We'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, I'll be back soon with more kill team content if you want to see how exploring a space hawk goes. So remember, even when you're in the depths of the ocean, there's always a chance that Khorne may be listening as long as you can roll a crit.